Jennifer Schutter, Field Specialist in Horticulture for University of Missouri Extension. I'm located in the Adair County Extension Center in Kirksville, and I'm going to talk about April gardening tips. And those of you that get the Garden Talk newsletter, you will find these garden tips on the back of that. And right now I'm going to share my screen so that you guys can see the tips. And we're going to go through each one by category, starting with vegetables. And by now, many of you have already planted your cool season garden. And if you haven't, you still have some time. I planted mine about 3 weeks ago, and I started 3 weeks ago, and I planted a little bit since then, and I can say I'm actually finished now. But if you haven't started or you need to finish up, there's still a little bit of time to do that. And you'll want to plant your cool season seeds. This can be spinach and lettuce, collards, mustard, plants like that. Also, you'll want to plant onions, potatoes, broccoli, cabbage, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, and also strawberry and rhubarb plants if you plan to plant those this spring. So all those should be planted at this time, and you don't want to wait much longer, because the longer you wait, the less likely you are to have a good harvest, say of broccoli. These are cool season crops. They like the cool weather. And if we wait too long to plant them, then the days get warmer and they just don't do very well in the warm days of spring. So the sooner you plant them, the sooner you'll have a harvest while the days are still cool. Now, some other tips in the category of vegetables are, if you plan to start cucumber, cantaloupe, summer squash, watermelon, basically any of those cucurbit plants, you want to start them indoors now, or you might just wait and plant them directly into your garden at a later time. And if you're going to plant them indoors, be sure you have plenty of light. If using grow lights, keep the lights low so that they don't develop into long, spindly plants or elongated spindly plants. That's a common problem for home gardeners that are starting any kind of a plant indoors. They don't get the light low enough, or the plant is not getting enough light, and the plants end up spindly and very elongated. And sometimes they don't even make it out to the garden. The gardener decides to throw them out and just start over. If you're growing rhubarb and your rhubarb plants put up a flower stalk, be sure to remove that. There's no need to have a flower stalk on your rhubarb plants. The plant will put its energy into seed production in that flower stalk, and that is not necessary. So take that flower stalk off. Moving on to ornamentals, there's several things to do. And during the first few weeks of April, you want to remove the mulch around your perennial plants. This includes your roses, and you should also prune your roses at this time. Prune any winter kill or dieback on the roses, and fertilize established roses once the new growth is about 2 inches long. And I am starting to see growth on rose bushes. Begin spraying for black spot on roses, which is a very common problem that roses get. And you'll want to start spraying if you have a variety that is susceptible to black spot. And then shrubs and trees best planted or transplanted in early spring include butterfly bush, dogwoods, which don't really do real well in Northeast Missouri. They do much better in the southern part of the state. The Rose of Sharon, black gum, redbud, grapevines, magnolias, tulip trees, birch, ginkgo, hawthorn, and most of the oaks. They're all best transplanted in the springtime. Regarding Easter lilies, sometimes I get asked, what do I do with my Easter lily after Easter? Can I plant it outdoors? And the answer is yes. When your Easter lilies are finished blooming, you can take it outdoors and you can plant it directly into the ground. Set the bulbs 2 to 3 inches deeper than they grew in the pot. So I had some Easter lilies last year, and I planted them directly into a flower bed next to my house, and they are coming up. So I've got some good growth on them already. Moving on, you want to apply control for holly leaf miner when the new leaves are just beginning to grow. Evergreen and deciduous hedges may be sheared at this time. Prune the top, narrower or more narrow than the base so that sunlight will reach the lower limbs. This is a big mistake that a lot of home gardeners and even landscapers make. They prune the base very narrow and the top wide, and it actually should be the opposite. The top should be wide, or the top should be more narrow, and the base of your shrub should be wide. Prune spring flowering ornamentals after they finish blooming. For example, this would be a forsythia and a lilac, and there's others, and they should be pruned after they bloom, not before they bloom. And this is going to be probably mid to late May into early June when you can start your pruning. And moving on to fruits now. Blemish-free fruits that are unmarred by insect or disease injury can rarely be produced without relying on regular applications of insecticides and fungicides. So if you choose to spray for insects and diseases on your fruit trees, you'll want to follow a fruit spray schedule. And you should see the University of Missouri guide sheet 6010, which is the home fruit spray schedule. That will tell you what to use and when to spray and how often. So be sure to download that guide and follow the recommendations. At this time, you want to remove tree wraps from trees. If you wrapped any young trees or fruit trees for winter protection, be sure you take these wraps off. Do not leave them on. Insects and moisture can get below the wrap or under the wrap and cause issues. So you want to make sure that you are taking those wraps off at this time. Stink bugs and tarnished plant bugs become active on peaches, and you'll want to follow a spray schedule to treat them. We will also see them on apples, and these are the insects with sucking mouth parts that will cause dimpling and distorted apples. So if that's been a problem, you'll want to follow a fruit spray schedule for fruit, your fruit plants. And destroy and remove any webs of eastern tent caterpillar that make webs in the crotches of your fruit trees. You might also see these in ornamental trees. I've seen eastern tent caterpillar in crabapple trees, and they're actually really easy to remove. Just take your hand and like scoop out the web and then destroy the caterpillars. So you don't want to leave those in the trees. They will munch on a lot of leaves. And then you want to protect bees and other pollinating insects by never spraying insecticides on the fruit trees while they are in bloom. So that's a no-no. Never spray your fruit tree while it is in bloom. Protect those bees. And begin sprays for fire blight susceptible apples and pears using an agricultural streptomycin. This product is found at most farm supply stores and garden centers. Going on to lawn and turf grasses. Start mowing cool season grasses at recommended heights. And for fescue lawns, which is mainly what we have in northern Missouri, you'll want to mow at about 3 to 3.5 inches. And that helps shade out any weeds and just gives you a nicer, prettier look to your lawn. Aerate turf if thatch is heavy or if soil is compacted. Top dress low spots and finish overseeding thin or bare spots. And if you have a large lawn that you need to seed, you're probably best to wait until fall after Labor Day. Large areas that need seeded are better established during the fall when the days and the nights are cooler. Apply crabgrass preventer before April 15th and do not apply it to areas that will be seeded. Crabgrass preventer kills crabgrass seed, and it cannot distinguish between a crabgrass seed or a lawn grass seed, such as your fescue seed. And some miscellaneous things for April are that termites begin swarming. Termites can be distinguished from ants by their thick waist and straight antenna. Ants have slender waist and elbowed antenna. Mole young are born in chambers deep underground. Honeybees are swarming. Wasp and hornet queens begin nesting. And hummingbirds return from their winter home in Central America. And that concludes our garden tips for April. And if you have any gardening questions that you would like to ask, you can contact me by email at schutterjl, that's SCHUTTERJL, at Missouri, spelled out, And happy gardening to all those gardeners out there.